1 Sagamore Street in Ward 3. As you know, in July of 2019, the previous BMA approved DPW's recommendation to modify Pine Street from Bridge to Webster from 2 vehicular lanes to 1. The decision also included this change to 3 other one-way streets of Maple, Beach, and Chestnut, which were scheduled to occur with their next paving. Those streets have been completed for several years now, with Pine Street being the only one that remains unchanged. On May 5th, I inquired about the repaving and restriping of Pine Street at the Ward 3 Town Hall meeting. Coincidentally, later that evening, Manchester Inklink issued a story that the Committee on Public Safety, Health and Traffic was scheduled to review DPW's proposal on May 6th, since paving on Pine Street was finally scheduled for this summer. I attended that meeting and was disappointed that DPW's proposal, which was already approved in 2019, was tabled. This isn't just about bike lanes. In fact, I don't believe this is the best lens to examine the worth of this project. Reducing our inner city superhighways to 1 vehicular lane of traffic is a traffic calming mechanism that has proven to reduce speeds, reduce erratic driving, reduce accidents, and improve sight lines at intersections, therefore improving public safety and the quality of life for those living in these neighborhoods. I don't own or ride a bike, but if I did, I'd be fearful of riding one in the city without designated bike lanes. Yet, even though I don't ride a bike, I understand the importance and value of multimodal transportation and complete streets. And I do drive a vehicle and frequently walk in these neighborhoods in downtown. So while the concept of bike lanes may not resonate with everyone, the concept of safer streets should. The time is now to act on DPW's recommendation, improve the safety in this area for vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, and improve the quality of life of people in these neighborhoods. I respectfully request that the Committee on Public Safety, Health and Traffic and this board honor the previous board's decision and commitment to modify this section of Pine Street, as this project has proven benefits to public health, safety, and traffic. Not only is it counterintuitive and counterproductive to the scope of the committee not to, but waiting could introduce additional delays and costs. Thank you all for what you do for this city, and thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Amber Nicole Cannon, followed by Bill Sturgios.
Hi, I'm Amber Nicole Cannon at 84 Brook Street, one house down from the Pine and Brook intersection. I'm often the neighbor that runs out to bandage people when the accident is bad enough to shake my house. I'm also a Department of Public Works Commissioner. I need to tell you that I am regularly bandaging people, bloody people, due to poor road design, which is why I'm thrilled Alderman Morgan assures me that the Pine Street resurfacing, along with the new striping pattern, will take place this summer. Please support this initiative. We've waited long enough. I am concerned the Traffic and Public Safety Commission, based on their comments at the May 6th meeting, seem unaware multiple times the public's desire for better modern infrastructure has been expressed. For example, the Ward 3 Town Hall meeting on May 5th, the sidewalk visioning session and report from April 18th and 19th, the Ward 3 Town Hall meeting on March 21st, 2024, the Plan NH charrette in July of 2023, and the August 2021 master plan document available on the city's website. It reflects a disconnect from the will of the people that kind of breaks my heart, as does the choice to hold a stakeholders meeting yesterday to discuss the Pine Street's resurfacing and striping, but not include any residents that I'm aware of. It would seem that additional information is necessary, so please support the efforts of the Army Transportation Equity Study and the Safe Streets for All initiatives through funds and resources to ensure aldermen know the needs and desires of their constituents who live in these neighborhoods. Please prioritize the opinions of the people who live on these streets, not those who zoom through the neighborhoods. Our city is becoming too dense to become to remain car dependent. Please build safe infrastructure for everyone that includes people with disabilities like myself and those who can't afford motorized vehicles. Lauren Getz, my neighbor, and I have collected 274 digital signatures supporting this resurfacing and new striping pattern for Pine Street. I spoke with my neighbors this weekend who were out and about and collected 50 additional physical signatures, which I can submit to you now. I don't know how that works, but thank you for listening and for your time. I really appreciate it.
Bill Sturgios, followed by Jeff Rogers.
Hi, my name is Bill Sturgis. I was born in Manchester. I live at 290 Courier Road in Candia, but I lived in Manchester most of my life. I guess I'm old because I remember when Chestnut Street, Beach Street, Maple Street were all two-way streets. But you got to look at back in the mid-'70s what kind of cars we had. We called them big boats, Cadillacs that are twice as big as the ones now, Buicks, and the two-way streets just didn't have enough room for these cars, so they made them one-way streets. But they did follow the speed limits and go like 30, 35 miles an hour. Not like the cars of today, where you have these small, high horsepower, turbocharged cars that zip around, change lanes, and just people think they're in the Daytona 500. Not to mention, you read about people driving around drunk, and that's the last thing we need. I remember when Will Stewart led the charge to make Maple Street a one-way street with a bike lane, and I think it's worked out pretty good. Now, Pine Street, the only thing that keeps the speeds down on Pine Street is the condition of the road. It's really bumpy and in terrible shape. But you got to think, when they tear this road up and repave it, it's going to be like I-93. And you look at the way roads are made, like the way roads are made, that's what determines the speed limit on the road. Like you can't put a speed limit of 30 miles an hour on I-93 because that road wasn't built for that. It was built for higher speeds. And if you make Pine Street 2 lanes and it's smooth as glass, it's like having I-93 in the middle of Manchester. It'll be a road made for 40, 45 miles an hour,
30 seconds.
which means that people are going to go 60. So I think that we need to keep the speeds down by the way that we make the roads. And I think that Pine Street with the bike lane, and it's not just for bikes. You have little electric scooters that can use that. And I think that the roads need to be made to keep the speeds down.
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff Rogers, followed by Tim Leola Huffman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Rogers. I live on Magnolia Road in Ward 1. Sometimes I drive in the city, sometimes I walk, sometimes I ride a bicycle. All are important to me. The suggestion that Manchester should decide whether it's a bicycle city or not may have been well-intentioned, but it is misguided and futile. With a population of 115,000, Manchester will have many people who will never ride a bicycle. It will also have many people who love bicycles and ride them often, and it will have many people who are gainfully employed but cannot afford a car and so need other transportation. All of those citizens deserve safe streets. 2 huge components of those safe streets are visibility and calm speeds. However I'm getting around, be it driving, walking, running, or biking, I want to see others and I want them to see me. That visibility keeps us all safer. I've experienced a life-threatening crash while cycling, and I can tell you the aftermath is painful and disruptive, as it would be regardless of the mode of transportation involved. We all share the road, and we all deserve to get home safely. The recently delayed Pine Street project contained a bike lane, and it also contained a lane reduction and parking changes to increase visibility when approaching corners. All these components are enormously important, designed to calm traffic, allow space for everyone, and make our streets safer for all users, especially as they approach corners. These changes were recommended by our Department of Public Works to improve safety. Now, imagine that they're delayed or even gutted by this board, stripping away the measures intended to increase safety. Then imagine that someone, a pedestrian, cyclist, or driver, is seriously injured or even killed on this stretch of road due to a crash. Then ask yourselves, should such a tragedy occur, who bears the moral responsibility? When we ignore proven safety improvements, we're not merely delaying a project, we are intentionally accepting a foreseeable risk that someone in our community will pay a severe price. As those elected to protect our community, I implore you to reconsider your decision and not contribute to a situation where one of our community members pays with their life. Thank you.
Tim Leola Huffman, and followed by Ali Rosenblatt.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Huffman, and this is my daughter, Leola. We live at 508 East High Street, and we wanted to speak in favor of the proposed bike lane on Pine Street. I'm sure the other folks who are going to testify and have already that they have a lot of really good data and points, but I want to share from personal experience using the existing bike lanes or the streets where the bike lanes currently exist. So my first observation is a motorist. My daughter goes to school in the North End, and we live near Bridge Street, so we travel on both all Beach, Maple, and Pine almost every day at busy times of day. And since the bike lanes have been installed there, there's a noticeably safer feel as a motorist on those streets. The speeds are calmer. There's also more room for the vehicle to drive. I don't feel like I'm going to sideswipe the vehicles parked on one side of the street, and I don't feel like I'm going to hit the granite curbs on the other. There's more room to avoid the potholes that inevitably pop up every spring, and overall it is just a nicer driving experience. If you compare that to Pine Street, which is still 2 lanes in one direction, and that on north of Bridge Street, that is kind of the same negative experience where you have tight traffic next to parked cars, and then the granite curb on the other side. And then my final observation here is that there really has been no negative traffic impacts as a result of the addition of the bike lane. Second, as a cyclist and a bike commuter in various levels for the last 15 years, bike lanes do feel safer. They are safer. You have more room away from cars. Even the sharrows that we have are an improvement over no bike lanes. Motorists also seem to be more aware of me when I'm in a bike lane, and overall having them is I think beneficial, and I believe that use will increase as more of them are installed. And finally, as a pedestrian, specifically as a runner, I have run every single street and back street in the city, all 1,600 miles of them, and the roads, excuse me, Maple and Beach Street with the bike lanes are much calmer than they used to be, and as a user
30
on foot,
seconds.
they are much preferable. And I'm gonna let my daughter say a few words.
Hi, my name is Leo. My dad and I like to ride bikes all over Manchester. Sometimes we ride our bikes in the bike lanes. When I ride bikes in the bike lanes, I feel very safe. I feel safe because I'm not on the road with all the cars. If we didn't have bike lanes, a lot of people could get hurt. In closing, I would like to say I support the new bike lane on Pine Street.
All right, so thank you all for your time. We are supportive of the proposed bike lanes. We feel like it will be an improvement for all users of that section of the street. So thank you.
Ali Rosenblatt, followed by Kathleen Carswell.
I'm Ali Rosenblatt. I live at 795 Elm Street in Ward 3. I'm asking the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to implement the previously agreed upon plan to pave Pine Street with the added bike lane. I live and work on the corner of Merrimack and Elm Street. I use the Pine Street lot, so I am very familiar with driving on Pine Street. Frequently, this two-lane, one-way road tends to get very dangerous with people speeding and trying to jockey around each other. I know a previous speaker referred to it as something akin to the Daytona 500, and he's not wrong. There was also talk earlier about improving the visibility on the road, and this change would also do that. As it stands right now, pulling in and out of the Pine Street lot is quite dangerous. It takes a good amount of time just getting in and out to avoid getting hit by cars that are going way above the speed limit as it currently stands. I'm also a biker. I bike around Manchester, both to run errands and for leisure on the streets and the rail trails. When I moved to New Hampshire, I did choose Manchester in part because it appeared to be bikeable and walkable. I'm starting to see that it's not as much as I would like, but I'm glad to see that it is getting more bike lanes, and I'd like to see more as has been approved already. I do want to continue to see our city moving in the direction towards bikeability and walkability as it is improving the city as the city's population continues to grow and people are going to be relying on this modes of transportation more and more. This is part of moving towards safer streets for all, for bikers, for motorists, for pedestrians. It's not just about the bike lane, it's about the bike lane's impact on a traffic calming measure as well. With that being said, I do believe that the board should implement the previously agreed upon plan and institute the bike lane on Pine Street without further delay. Thank you.
Kathleen Carswell, followed by Alex Hawk.
Good evening. I'm back again, pleading with you, Mayor, could we please have a sit-down for at least a half an hour? I've been asking since July, and I've gotten no response. It took, like I said before, when I came to the last meeting 2 weeks ago, it took me 3.5 years to get Mayor Craig to sit down. And that was chasing her, basically. It's, I'm just one person, but I have ideas from citizens from around my ward, as well as other people in the community. And second, now that the cat's out of the bag, I would like you to look into the aldermen and alderwomen who are not doing their job. They farm out the work that they should be doing, that we elect them to these seats, and they're not doing their work. They farm it out for someone else to do the work for them. That's not right. If you can't do the work, please do not sign up for a seat. We all take, when no one's taking this for granted. There's a lot of people on this board that are very, very good, and I applaud them for that. But there are a few bad apples, and it's got to stop, because you're making the city not likable, believe me. I've been here, like I said, 63 years out of my 65. And it's getting worse instead of better because we don't have a standing group of people to help us when we voice our opinions. And it's like going on deaf ears. So I would like, please, to look into that. Thank you.
Alex Hawk, followed by Bryce Kawu.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. My name is Alex Hawk, and I live on McGregor Street in Ward 11. I'm here tonight to voice my support for increasing DPW funding for completing the safety improvements on Pine Street and to share why you should support these as well. Before I get into my main point, I just want to say that if there's one thing we can probably all agree on, it's that Manchester roads need more repaving and more potholes filled. I ask that you please consider increasing DPW's paving funding in this year's budget, and maybe the sidewalk and traffic signal funding too. That being said, DPW is doing what they can with limited resources, and when we do repave, we should be making the most of that opportunity, especially when we can incorporate cost-effective changes that are proven to make our streets safer for everyone. As someone who regularly walks, bikes, and yes, rides in the bike lanes in this city, I've seen firsthand the benefits that come with more thoughtfully designed streets. I do support a broader effort to create a long-term vision for safer, more accessible streets in Manchester, one that addresses the needs of pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, and emergency responders alike. Any effort like this should focus on developing a bigger picture strategy, though, not rehashing settled decisions or delaying shovel-ready projects. With limited staffing and strained budgets, especially in departments like DPW, we need to be efficient with both our time and our money. And I'd like to add as well, when Beach and Maple were restriped with a single travel lane and bike lane, the results were clear. There were fewer crashes, calmer traffic, and a safer experience for everyone, including drivers getting in and out of their parked cars. It's really not just about bikes. These are simple, low-cost changes that deliver real improvements for everybody. In the case of Pine Street, the plan is already in place. The infrastructure improvements are ready to go. This is a chance to make a data-backed, master plan-backed, community-supported change, efficiently using our taxpayer dollars as part of work that's already been planned. I ask that when this opportunity and others arise, you please support making our streets safer. Thank you.
Bryce Kawu, followed by Amy Kizak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bryce Kawu, and I live in Ward 1. And I came here tonight, like many others, to address the situation on Pine Street. So I support the Pine Street repaving project that unfortunately was recently tabled by Ward 1 Alderman Chris Morgan, Ward 6 Alderman Chrissy Cantor, and Ward 11 Alderman Norm Vincent. The traffic calming measures proposed by DPW have made a real positive difference in the places where they've already been implemented on Maple, Beach, and Chestnut Streets. The residents of Pine Street have been waiting a long time to finally get these improvements too, and I hope we can move forward with them as soon as possible. While I don't live on Pine Street myself, I do drive there every now and then on my way home from downtown. And as a driver, I can say that I strongly prefer driving along the updated portions of Chestnut, Beach, and Maple. Those streets feel way more comfortable to drive on. They're less stressful, less hectic, and less crowded. I'd love to see the same thing done to Pine Street as proposed by DPW. This would have an added benefit of aligning with the mayor's recently announced age-friendly city planning initiative in collaboration with the AARP. The AARP actually has a list of the 8 domains of livability, and transportation is number 2 on that list. Let me read what they say, and I'll quote, "Driving shouldn't be the only way to get around. Pedestrians need sidewalks and safe crossable streets. Dedicated bicycle lanes benefit non-drivers and drivers alike. Public transit options can range from the large scale, trains, buses, light rail, to the small, taxis, shuttles, or rideshare services," end quote. If you have an issue with that, take it up with the AARP or with Mayor Rouet. But back to Pine Street. I know that Ward 1, Alderman Chris Morgan expressed an interest a couple of weeks ago that we shouldn't do this piecemeal, that we need a plan. And he's right. For now, though, allowing the Pine Street repaving to move forward would be a good step in the right direction. Let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. I'm sure the city can explore making a comprehensive plan with all the relevant stakeholders in the coming months and years. I know a lot of us here in the audience would be really happy to see that happen. The same applies to many of those who signed the petition but couldn't make it tonight. We all want to make our streets safer. We all want to make our community healthier. So I ask you to vote in favor of the Pine Street repaving project when it comes before you next. Thank you.
Amy Kizak, followed by David Tedisco.
Good evening. My name is Amy Kizak, and I live at 808 Maple Street. I live at the corner of Maple and North, and in the past, my yard is one that cars and accidents happen into them and occur. When the 2018 traffic calming study on Maple Street happened, it was a really great thing to happen. I spent a lot of time sitting out on my front porch watching how it changed the traffic flow and how it changed the character of the neighborhood. It made the street safer. It was safer to cross the street. You no longer had 2 cars racing up the road. You could actually see all the cars that were coming up the road. It made it safer to mow my grass because there was no longer a car right against the curb. It made it less accidents, and it has reduced the amount of speed that all the cars are driving up the road. As a resident, I drive Chestnut and Pine every day to commute to work. I commute by bike, I commute by car. It is very nice to be able to commute down with the bike lanes It is scary to drive and ride on Pine Street. I encourage you to support the traffic calming measures along Pine Street. It makes a big improvement in the city and in the neighborhood and for the residents. Thank you for your time and attention.
David Tedisco, followed by Eliza Agosta.
Hi, everyone. My name is David. I live in Ward 2, and I work on Pine Street downtown. I usually drive to work, but sometimes I enjoy biking. And for me, luckily that's a choice, but it isn't for everyone. And that's why I really want to support the approved plan for us to add that bike lane in with the resurfacing of Pine Street. Not just for myself when I bike, but for everybody who needs to bike in Manchester. And also for everybody who drives, because like a lot of people have said already tonight, driving on Pine Street isn't really fun for anyone, and it's not safe. And safety, of course, is the most important thing for everybody here. So I hope that we can make sure that this goes through, and I hope that this can be the first step of many as part of a comprehensive plan. So let's get this paved. Thank you.
Eliza Agosta, followed by Glenn Ouellette.
Hello, Mayor Rue. My name is Eliza Agosta. I live on Orange Street in Ward 2. And I also work downtown. Me and my partner share one car, and someone usually takes the car. So many times I am biking, walking, taking the bus, all to get downtown. And again, because I work downtown, it's usually twice a day that I'm going on this same road. And in all of those different modes of transportation, it's dangerous and it's scary. Just last week, I was walking to work, crossing Pine Street, and in the crosswalk, a car stopped for me. The car next to them did not see me and zoomed right past. Right, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And so while I support the repaving of Pine Street with the reduction of the lanes and the addition of a bike lane, I also support Alderman Morgan's idea of having a more comprehensive plan. I think that's really important because, as I said, me and my partner own one car, which is actually very common in Manchester. A lot of my friends do as well. For example, my friend Evan, who owns a bakery downtown, asked me to read this because right now he can't attend because he is baking for tomorrow. He says, as a small business owner in downtown Manchester, biking is my primary way of commuting. It's the most convenient option given how close I live to downtown, and the most affordable because me and my wife can own one car. While existing bike lanes and paths help me get to work, there are still many gaps in bikeable areas in the city. Without clear separation from traffic, it's easy for interactions between cars and bikes to become stressful or unpredictable for everyone involved. Doing a comprehensive plan would help Evan and his family prosper in Manchester. But again, I urge you to do what you can right now to make Pine Street safer. Thank you.
Glenn Ouellette, followed by Kevin Crichion.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Ouellette, and I live in 112 Auburn Street. I want to thank Alderman Berry for getting those lights on. Only took 5 months to get a whole block of lights on a whole block that was completely dark. I found another one, and it's downtown. Across from Veterans Park, the Sutton section where they're raising a high-rise of 8 stories right now, not one light is on. I have to walk through that at midnight, every night coming back from work. It is completely dark. The reason why I don't use the park is there is a curfew in the park. The park is well lit, and as it should be, but those streetlights should be on. We don't live in the woods, we live in a city, and we need to keep people safe. Please turn those on, not just for my safety, but for other safety of other people who walk the streets. The other thing is the Pine Street. I'm not against a bike lane. I think they're there for a very useful purpose. What I don't like is when you put the bike lane on the northern end of Pine Street and the other one-way streets, you forgot to put signs or warn people that they can't ride their cars on the bike lanes, and many of them do. That's how they maneuver around now. There's only one lane. And part B to that is that when it comes to the end of a next intersection, you have a lane, you have a bike lane, you got a car lane, a bike lane, and then you have another lane. So that means if I want to get in to go to the right, I've got to cross that bike lane. That is not a safe situation. You need to move that bike lane at the very end where there's less of a chance of having an accident. And number 3 is you are now approaching the downtown area between Bridge Street and Chestnut Street. That is the most dense area of the city. When we have events downtown, you use those streets, Pine and Chestnut, because you block Elm Street because you have an event. That's a lot of traffic. If a fire truck or a police car or an ambulance wants to get through, it's very difficult. So I am in favor of bike lane. I think we need to find ways to keep everybody safe and still keep the flow of traffic. If people are speeding, we need to have more of an effort to stop the speeders. Thank you.
Kevin Criscione, followed by Jess Harkness.
Good evening, Mayor, Alderman. My name is Kevin Criscione. I've spent a lot of time over the last few years walking and dog walking and biking around Rimmon Street on the west side. And I also support the aforementioned Pine Street repaving project. I just want to emphasize how optimistic I am about the future of the downtown, of Manchester in general, coming back from the years of the pandemic. I am quite optimistic, and it was great to feel that energy at the recent pedestrian public meeting for downtown. It was a charrette put on, and I've had my table, and hearing from the other groups, there were a number of business leaders and property owners there, as well as community members and leaders, and we shared this enthusiasm about the downtown area and the strides that have been made over the past few years. And you know, as we discussed there, part of that is due to certain, part of that could be improved for sure by a better atmosphere for pedestrians, for cyclists, and for drivers too, in terms of traffic safety, in terms of addressing some of these key pain points, I would say, throughout the city of Manchester. I've had my share of close calls, and I really do appreciate when there is adequate pedestrian signage and when the city kind of intervenes, as they're doing in a number of different projects, to make the city more amenable to pedestrians, to cyclists, etc. And I've actually spoken about this at public comment about 4 times over the past 2 years, and I'm grateful to see a lot of other people who kind of share in many ways what I have to say tonight, who also support a vision of a safer Manchester, because I think it has a lot to do with the culture of the city, the economy, and just the health of downtown and how good it feels to be around the city, your attachment to the place. And so I support the Pine Street repaving and other efforts to study the issues, go forward and follow the data and create a safer city with regards to traffic. Thank you.
Jess Harkness, followed by Connor Best.
Hello. My name's Kate Emery. I'm here with my household, Jess Harkness and Connor Bost. But for time's sake, I'm going to speak for all 3 of us. My household is here in support of the Pine Street repaving with a 1-lane street and an added bike lane. All 3 of us walk, run, and drive Pine Street on a daily basis. We do also use our bikes a lot to get downtown and run errands, just especially when there's big events going on and we don't want to add to the traffic downtown. Just recently, I was at the taco tour and coming back from having a great time down there, and I was coming back on Pine Street. We live at 90 Sagamore Street, so I often take Pine back coming up from Elm Street. And I was on my way back to my house. Two cars passed me at the same time in both lanes. They nearly clipped me. They didn't give me any extra space. So repaving this road as a one lane with an added bike lane is an easy way to protect people from the close calls like the one that I had recently. So again, I just ask that we move this repaving forward as planned with the one lane, reducing to one lane and adding a bike lane. Thank you.
Steve Townsend, followed by Lauren Getz.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Townsend. I live at 1018 Merrill Street within Ward 7. I'm here to voice my support for DPW's approved plan to repave Pine Street with the addition of the bike lane, as well as Alderman Morgan's comprehensive plan for a more safe street and a more safe city. I bike down Pine Street almost once a week to get to where I got to go on Elm Street or the library, anywhere else I need to be. And nearly every single time I go on Pine Street, I nearly ran off the road on this 2-lane traffic highway. With each time I ran off the road, I inevitably come across this car at the next traffic light, just kind of looking at them perplexed, like, hey, what's going on right now? Because it's obvious to me, since I was nearly killed, that biking in the city is nearly just as fast as driving down the city, but these drivers don't see it. They just see these bikers as being the problem. When in reality, these 2 lanes that they have are not assisting them in any form or fashion where they got to go. It's just making it more dangerous for the people and the residents that actually reside on this street. With that being said, considering that traffic in Manchester has been documented going down year after year, and the elevated risk associated with a 2-lane street on a residential street, a 2-lane road on a residential street, now is the time to fix the plan, to fix the street and implement DPW's approved plan. My time in the Army has taught me one thing: you can do something right, or you can do it again. I implore you, please do this right the first time so we don't have to do it again after the first resident of Manchester is killed after Pine Street is paved without a bike lane on it. With that, thank you for your time.
Lauren Getz, followed by Dave Cannon.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. My name is Lauren Getz, and I live in a 4-family that my husband and I own at 604 Pine Street. I've called Pine Street home for the past 6 years, and tonight I want to speak to you not just as a resident, but as someone who is deeply invested in the future and livability of this neighborhood. When I purchased 604 Pine Street, I was drawn to the walkability and the proximity to downtown. My husband and I have dedicated every minute of our free time to renovating and restoring this 1870s Victorian home, which is a piece of Manchester's history. I've worked very hard to be a good neighbor and property owner, providing safe and stable housing and trying to contribute to the sense of community. As a landlord, I take my responsibility very seriously. My tenants aren't just short-term renters. They have lived in my apartments for well over a decade before I even purchased the home, and they consider it home. The safety of my tenants, just like my own, depends on the conditions outside of our front doors. But over the years, that sense of community has been overshadowed by increasing concerns about dangerous traffic conditions. The intersection of Pine and Brook, where my home sits on the northwest corner, has become a hot spot for serious crashes. I call 911 weekly for collisions just feet from my living room window. I've held the hands of victims, administered first aid along with my neighbor, Amber Nicole, who spoke earlier, provided surveillance footage to MPD, and flagged down emergency vehicles. Drivers regularly ignore the stop sign at Brook Street and many others, and the visibility is terrible. The telephone pole on the corner has been hit so frequently it's been replaced, and the new one now leans toward my home. I no longer feel safe working in or enjoying my own yard, and I avoid walking my dog on my own section of sidewalk. The risk of a car ending up in my front yard again for the 3rd time, causing property damage, is real and it's constant. I worry every day for the neighborhood kids who are truly having an authentic childhood in this area, who start buzzing around outside on the first 60-degree day until dusk through the summer months, They're off their screens and engaging in collaborative play, and it's not safe out there for them, traffic-wise. On top of the traffic dangers, I've experienced a variety of safety-related issues, but those aren't unique to Pine Street, and those are challenges many mid-sized cities face. But when combined with the traffic dangers and lack of action, they begin to shape the reality of my daily life and the future I'm trying to build. These are the kinds of things that weigh heavily on you
30
when you
seconds.
ask yourself whether it's realistic to start a family here. It's frustrating to see the plan for Pine Street continue to be deferred when we were told it would be repaved. Twice already this week, I've witnessed nearly 2 separate head-on collisions due to vehicles barreling down the two-way, the opposite direction. I know this could be mitigated when reduced to 1 lane and implementing traffic calming measures. So I'm here to ask for action, and I want to know what steps I and my neighbors here with me today can take to improve the safety and
3
what role
minutes.
we can play to create meaningful change. Thank you all for your time today.
Dave Cannon, followed by Robert Vita.
Good evening, Dave Cannon, 84 Brook Street, Ward 3. I wish people knew how to drive on a 2-lane one-way road. I really wish they did. It's not that complicated, right? If we went the speed limit, if we gave cyclists the required 3 feet of passing distance, if we stopped at stop signs and checked to make sure no vehicles were coming, if when a car was stopped at a crosswalk, you stopped as well because they probably stopped for some reason. If we didn't left turn from the right turn lane because it's a 2-lane one-way road, a lot of the challenges that we're talking about today wouldn't be an issue. Unfortunately, I think we all know we can't have that, right? We can't have an entire population that knows how to drive on a 2-lane one-way road. So we've got to do something about it. We don't need a 2-lane one-way road. It's a little wishy-washy to figure out what the actual throughput capacity is of that road is, but you could put probably 1,500 cars an hour down that road. Even on marathon days when Elm Street shut down, there's no capacity. There's no backlogs on Pine Street. There's a light at Bridge. There's a light at Webster. No one's ever gone through 2 cycles of a light there. And if it goes down to 1 lane, I don't think that'll happen either. It doesn't happen at Maple Street, at Bridge or Webster right now either. I live right near Pine and Brook Street as well. Sightlines on that specific intersection are terrible. There are other areas that the sightlines are really bad as well. Making it a single lane is gonna help a lot with knowing that there's a car coming, that there's only 1 car coming. It's not got another one coming along the other side. I work in the mill yard. I commute an entire mile. I'm very lucky that I have a really nice commute. And I do multimodal commutes because I also share 1 vehicle in our household. So I'm biking to work, or skateboarding to work, or walking to work. And Pine Street is just not a place I ever want to be on when I'm not, even when I am driving, I avoid Pine Street. So I think we all understand 2-lane one-way makes no sense. So I think we have a good idea of what needs to be done. And there's plenty of time to integrate it perfectly later with some additional striping or bump outs. But we know what we got to do right now. Thank you.
Robert Vita, followed by Spencer Sherman.
Hello, my name is Robert Vita, and I live on Hackett Hill Road in Ward 12. I'd like to ask that when the Pine Street repaving project comes up, please vote in favor for it. I believe the Pine Street project and projects like it are incredibly important to the growth of Manchester and the health and well-being of all its citizens. I know from experience living in Ward 12 the safety concerns that pedestrians and cyclists face in the city and the incredible benefits that sidewalks, bike lanes, and other multimodal infrastructure provides. I regularly walk and bike in downtown and to downtown, and I know there are many more times that I would have biked into downtown if Front Street and other roads along the way were safer for those who want or need to travel outside of a car. I think the Pine Street project is a great investment for Manchester because it improves the road for everyone for pennies on a dollar by making simple adjustments to the road during a repaving project. It will make the city more walkable and safe for everyone, which will attract more people to the city we love. And in conclusion, I am strongly in favor of the Pine Street project and would ask you all to vote for it. And thank you for your time.
Spencer Sherman.
Hello, I'm Spencer Sherman. I live at 521 Pine Street. I am in favor of the Pine Street project. I honestly didn't even know about this project until today. I learned about it today, and I'm very excited to hear that it may be happening. I agree that Chestnut and some other streets nearby who have already done this with the one traffic lane and then one bike lane seem to be safer, and honestly, as a driver, seem to be easier to drive on. I've never experienced significant traffic on them, so I don't think 2 driving lanes is necessary. I think living on Pine Street, it's kind of crazy there's 2 driving lanes there. It's too many. It makes it harder to navigate the road. As other people have already said, the road is less friendly to pedestrians, bicyclists, but I think also it's less friendly to drivers. The 2 lanes it doesn't help, in my mind, anyone. So thank you.
That concludes our list of speakers, Your Honor.
This whole Pine Street discussion.
Alderman Morgan, if you want to speak to that.
Sure, Alderman O'Neill. So
I'm sorry.
the stakeholder meeting was yesterday. DPW, MeDo, and planning met, and we met and basically came to the conclusion that Pine Street was mainly for, as everyone's saying, the reduction of traffic, calming traffic. This will be the last bike lane that DPW has planned for this year or in the future at this moment in time. And we're gonna, they're gonna apply for a Safer Streets grant, which will allow us to have a more comprehensive study moving forward. So bottom line is, Alderman Vincent and I came to the conclusion that we're in support of this moving forward. And on the June 3rd docket, it will come up, and we believe that it'll pass.
So take.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Long.
Thank you, Your Honor. So on the June 3rd docket, will it include the bike lanes?
Yes.
Okay, and I just want to tell you that that's in Ward 3, and I didn't hear nothing from anybody on that. And I respectfully will call somebody in the ward if I'm working on something in their ward. I get all the calls. I've got over 25, 30 calls since you tabled it.
You saw it was on the agenda. You could have easily said something at any time.
And I got all the calls prior to that. I was talking with Director Thomas on, which I've heard for years. Any inner city road where cars flip over is problematic. You have to go that fast where you have rollovers on inner city streets. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm glad to hear that it'll come forward on June 3rd to redo the road, including put it in bike lanes. Thank you.
Do you need a second on the?
Yeah, I need a motion to.
I'll second.
Sorry, motion to approve the balance of consent. Do we want to continue this under new business, or do we want to continue having this conversation?
Say, Your Honor, one thing, just so everyone knows that the timing is not going to affect the actual paving schedule to be voted on June 3rd. So we'll be in the same position to do that.
Okay.